A top story, the UN arms embargo on Iran has expired, which means that the country can now purchase weapons from and export weapons to any country without restrictions. We have a report.
The Iranian Foreign Ministry, in a statement, announced the termination of a UN Security Council arms embargo on the country. The statement says that from now on, Iran may procure any necessary weapons and military equipment it needs from any source.
As of today, the Islamic Republic of Iran can obtain any arms and necessary equipment from any source without any legal restrictions and simply based on its defense needs, and can also export defensive weapons based on its policies.
The statement also says that the termination of the arms embargo takes place automatically as stipulated in UN Security Council Resolution 2231 and the Iran nuclear deal.
Today, all restrictions on the transfer of weapons to and from the Islamic Republic of Iran and on relevant measures and financial services automatically ended. In accordance with the JCPOA, the final and unconditional termination of arms embargo does not require the adoption of any new resolution, and there is no need for the UN Security Council to issue any statements or take any other action.
The statement stresses that unconventional weapons as well as unrestrained imports of conventional arms have no place on Iran's defense doctrine. The statement also calls on the U.S. to, quote, abandon its destructive approach toward UN Security Council Resolution 2231 and deliver on its commitments. Meanwhile, Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif, in a tweet, called the end of the arms embargo a momentous day for the international community. He said the normalization of Iran's defense cooperation with the world will help promote regional peace and security. The expiration of the UN arms embargo on Iran is in line with the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which stressed that the ban would come to an end on the 18th of October 2020. The U.S. had been making every effort for months to reinstate the arms embargo as well as international sanctions on Iran. Washington had asked the UN Security Council to bring back all sanctions on Tehran, but the U.S. demand was rejected by the world body outright.
The American, they were trying to preempt this lifting of the embargo in September. Last September, the U.S. unilaterally announced it has reinstated all UN sanctions on Iran, and that were lifted, part of the nuclear deal. This move was rejected by the United Nations Security Council.
However, with the U.S. presidential election just around the corner, the Trump administration continues to use the Iran card to get an edge in the upcoming ballot. The White House is pressing ahead with its smear campaign against Iran to paint a black picture of the country. Nevertheless, the big no that UN Security Council members gave the U.S. over its demand that Iran sanctions be reinstated shows the Trump administration is isolated more than ever before.
Well, time now to shed light on this a little bit and discuss different aspects of it. So joining me in our Tehran studios is Mahan Abedin, journalist and analyst. Good to have you with us, Mahan. As you know, the day has arrived and the U.S. tried its utmost to stop this and to try to kind of extend this arms ban on Iran for good, but it failed, and you know the whole story. So what would this mean for the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a legal victory because, as your viewers are well aware, the United States tried its utmost to stop this from happening. Initially, they put forward a resolution at the United Nations Security Council to have the arms embargo extended. That was rejected. Then they fell back on Plan B, which was to snap back all the sanctions. Again, they found no bias for that. Even their closest allies in Europe, France, Germany, and even the UK, which almost always follows the US in international affairs, they were against the US on this issue. So legally, the United States has completely and utterly failed because as part of that agreement 5 years ago, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the arms embargo was set to expire on the 18th of October 2020, and they have now duly expired. So it's a legal victory for Iran. I think beyond that, it's also a moral victory because Iran resisted steadfastly. Iran resorted to legal and diplomatic means to defend its position and to defend its interests. And Iran defended its interest at the highest levels of international law and politics and diplomacy, namely the United Nations, and Iran has prevailed. So a legal victory, a moral victory, but also important in practical terms, because now for the first time since 2007, when an arms embargo was imposed on Iran, we are now free to trade as we like. We can either import weapons, or more importantly and more pertinently, actually export them, because we're now in a situation based on our progress over the past decade, technological progress in the military sphere, the diversification of our military systems, which are fully indigenous. We're now in a position to export weapons to all manner of countries, and already several countries have expressed an interest in buying arms from us, namely Venezuela, which has expressed an interest in buying ballistic missile technology from Iran. So we are in a position to do that if we make the decision to do so.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Mahan Abedin, journalist and analyst who joined me now.